back on Liquid Lunch, and we're enjoying the music of Naria. And we got Michael and Mirolla here. Michael, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
It's great to be back. It's always nice to be on the show here.
yeah.
You guys are so natural, so.
Well, we practice relentlessly to get this natural thing down.
Practice makes natural.
Now, you've got a new book, The Ballad of Martin B. And before we're going to get you to read just a tiny bit of it, but tell us the story of this book. What's it really all about?
Well, the story itself, it's about a teenager, someone who's just about to finish high school. He's just about to graduate from high school, and then he decides to throw it all away and get out on the streets, take his mom's, the family allowance money that his mother has been saving for him, and just head out onto the streets to be whatever, trying to, fight against whatever he has to fight against. The catch in the whole thing is that the reason, the starting point is that he gets a visit from the ghost of a philosopher. And he gets visits from these philosophers all the way through the book.
That's just like Scrooge. Again, Scrooge is coming up
bit,
again.
It's Christmas time.
Yeah. And this is, the first one is Socrates, who visits him in his room.
That's really a cool idea, actually.
And so, he just throws it all away and packs all the stuff.
So Socrates was the one that inspired him to throw it all
well,
away?
he kind of came in and said, basically recited some of the lines from some of his work, and he said, what is the truth? What are you looking for? Who are you? What have you done? And this got Martin B thinking. And don't forget, it's a ballad.
Yes.
So it's it's one of these things where the reality doesn't actually have to match the truth. It's just it's a ballad. It's something that it runs along a kind of a different level than a realistic or naturalistic type of story.
Now that alone is curious, because you normally think of a ballad being music. So how does a ballad work as a novel or
prose?
A lot of ballads are poems, actually.
Poems, yeah.
The old highwayman ballads, for example, that were done. But this is prose. So what it does is just it takes an idea and just goes with it. And it kind of puts on some blinkers as well, so that you don't. There's some questions you can ask about the actual storyline. Say, are there punks like that today, for example?
Absolutely.
That sort of thing.
is it set in the present day?
It's set kind of. It doesn't really say where it's set, but it does mention cell phones.
Yeah.
Like he's all against cell phones. He goes on subways and he cuts the earbuds off of people listening to music, that sort of thing. He's
Well, it sounds like it's almost like I don't know if that's. It sounds like Socrates being the inspiration for him to kind of throw it all away. It's kind of like the message. And is that the message that you're conveying in the book? It kind of reminds me of Timothy Leary saying, "Tune in, turn on, drop out."
It's not. It's just one of the messages in the book. I'm not sure if there is a message. I don't think a ballad has to have a message. It tells the story of the main character, and he's kind of a contradictory character. I mean, he can be very nice, and yet in certain sections of the book, he's very vicious. He can't stand the ones who are poseurs, for example. He finds a place where he thinks that people like him belong. And he goes there, and they still do some slam dancing or mosh pit stuff, and he gets into that, but then he discovers that they're not willing to go quite as far as he is with what he wants to prove something, and so he kind of dumps them as well, and the way he does it is, I don't know if I'm giving away too much of the story here, but he robs a bank at one point. And so he has all this money, and he goes back to this club where everybody is, they welcome him back, and he's been away for a while. They welcome him back and say, "Hey, man," and he meets up with this guy who wanted him to join his group in fighting the world, or
the tyranny of the world.
Fighting, but what they do is send out newsletters and this sort of thing. So he goes to the club, and he basically gets into a fight with this guy, and to show that these guys are so full of it, he breaks open a pack of money that he has that he's just stolen from the bank and tosses it up in the air. And when he does that,
Oh, a
the
frenzy.
the true nature comes out.
Yeah,
Or so he thinks. So Martin B thinks.
Have you ever robbed a bank, Michael?
No.
You ever want to?
Right from
Nope.
experience.
I know I
is
do.
it? Yeah, well, yeah.
Sometimes I've felt that way.
No, robbing banks isn't worth it.
Okay.
First of all, you can't get any money out of banks.
Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
That's
What are you
I'm
going to walk
thinking.
away with?
But what was the inspiration for the book?
Okay, well, when I worked as the theater and music critic at the Montreal Gazette in the early 1980s, and I covered the punk scene in
Which was
Montreal.
pretty substantial.
Yeah, it was.
It
in
was,
Montreal.
yeah, it was. And so in Toronto as
Yeah.
well. But and so I covered the scene. I was able to talk to a lot of the people there. Some who were poseurs, and others who were, pretty close to living on the streets. They were, and so that's where I got one idea. The other part was that at the same time, I visited some of the neighborhoods, not too far from the Montreal Gazette, actually, places just around the corner where there were these rundown triplexes, and I mean rundown. They were just about getting ready to be demolished because the owner was going to put up, and they have put up some big condos and things of that sort there. And I went in, visited one of these triplexes.
And they were squatters, right? Were they?
Squatters was more than squatters. there were old people living there who, one I remember really, and I mentioned in the story that she lived in a bed surrounded by garbage, just surrounded. It was like covered, and there were rats flying around and the whole thing. And so I mix those two elements together in this to kind of, it's kind of like I said, it's a raw story, and it's written in a raw way. There's a lot of swearing and deeds that you wouldn't normally want your children to do, your teenage son or daughter to do, but it's part of the culture. It's part of the ballad. It's part
And
of
so, and this is obviously, and you have that experience of meeting these people
Some
and
people, yeah.
kind of living in their world, at least for
a little bit,
seeing
yeah,
them.
just interviewing them.
Yeah. What do you think it's all about? And here we are, we're in the context of the Occupy movement and
Right.
just
right.
being kicked out. Like, what's going on? Are people just dropping out of society, or are they,
Well,
what are the issues?
I don't know. I have my own ideas about. I'm pretty much of an existentialist when it comes to that sort of thing. I think that things like Occupy the World, they're good, but they're good to a certain extent. They reach a certain level, but then they don't really identify what's really hurting us as human beings. I don't think. And I think we have to go on another level to discover that. At least that's the way I look at it, and that's the way this book looks at it as well. No matter what you do, no matter whether you're a rich person or a poor person, that should not be the definition of your life. That should not be what makes you a human being. In the case of Martin B., he had a very nice middle class life, and he gave it away. Then he becomes this street person, and so he's treated like garbage by people around him. He tries to fight back. The fighting back only works for himself, basically. He kind of revolts against the system. In the end, he gets wiped out. The story starts with his dad, with his funeral home, and the visit by all his buddies. And he's already dead. So it's the ghost telling the story. He gets out of the coffin and starts to tell the story. And so was he successful? Did he make his point? I don't think that the story is about that. It's about him and his choices. And he did some good stuff. He did some bad stuff. In the end, how do you balance it out? How do you weigh it?
Well, that's life. It's not a morality play,
Well,
right?
I think this is what I'm trying to say. And the Occupy movement is very good on a social level.
Yeah.
I think, and it's not going to change the minds of the corporations or the bankers. But what it will do is probably influence the 99% who thought that they were completely hopeless.
Right.
That they couldn't do anything. But now they see that there is something they can do. And maybe even peacefully, maybe even without having to, cause a revolution. Although, who knows about that one? I've got my theories on that, but it's not here. No. place to say it. But what I'm saying is that Martin B, I think, works at a different level. Doesn't work at the social level, because he fights against people who try to solve problems by just, you know, talking about them, or having meetings about them. Okay, that's the first thing he does. He shows up with these people at a house in Westmount in Montreal, where they have a really wealthy family, but the son is one of the singers at this punk club, and so he's, you know, he's fighting against what he feels are his parents' values and society's values. But the way they do it is through what Martin B doesn't believe in. So instead, he goes to a studio, which is based on a CBC studio, and he gets in with his girlfriend, with Britt, and they proceed to just crazy glue everything in the place, you know, because they're, and what are they showing on what are they showing at that point? Leave It to Beaver rerun or something. So you know, it's kind of, okay, what are you attacking? You are attacking the kind of what the society talks about, what its images are, what its influences are, but are you making any changes? Are you making any progress with that?
Holding up a mirror, right?
That's a good
You know,
point, because I think they do want to make changes, progress, improve things. But the question is, how do you really do that, right? I mean, when if this book is set in the age of cell phones, I mean, we're in a situation today, I think, where in the 60s there was a generation gap. The kids were very different from their parents.
right.
But today, I almost think there isn't a generation gap.
Well, you'll get people like Martin B today. You'll find them. They're out there. I mean, you know, and they do feel that they're different, that there is a generation gap in parents. But if you're saying in general, and you're saying this is because of the social media, because of cell phones, because of the ability to sort of meld everything together. Like, you know, I see 80-year-old grandmas on the street, you know, talking exactly with the cell phone stuck like this, and they're walking exactly the same way as a 16-year-old is doing. If that's the case, but that was the case also, I believe, in the 60s for the majority of the population. I think the ones we saw revolting or, you know, marching were a minority then as well. They might have made a bigger point because there wasn't so much distraction. There wasn't so it's a split in the way things were covered, maybe, and also because of the closeness of the Vietnam War, which I think
that was, I think, the thing that really
generated,
set that generation on fire.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned the story begins with Martin being dead, and I was going to ask you if you know, if there's any redemption in the story. And it almost sounds like there isn't.
No, not in that kind of redemption. There is, in the sense that the redemption comes through the story. I mean, the whole idea of telling a story is about how well you can tell it. Now, the final philosopher, who's not really a philosopher, he's a liberation priest from South America, who was executed, tortured and executed. And there was a story about, well, lots of them were tortured and executed. But and so this is the final one. Is he sees the ghost of this liberation priest, who is like half of his brains are missing, and, you know, he's been tortured and everything. But he talks about being how can you be a revolutionary, and he says, if you're not a revolutionary, you're not a Christian, right? So he puts it the other way around. So maybe that is a statement somewhere. That's the liberation theology idea, right? You have to help the poorest. That's how you become a revolutionary, you know, in Christian terms. So and Martin and his girlfriend do go and feed these old people in these triplexes. They talk to them for a bit, you know, they learn they get their stories from them, that sort of thing. So if that's a form of redemption, a form of, you know, that might, but for an entire society, redemption for a society, I don't think that's true. I mean, a novel like Anna Karenina, for example, you know, encompasses the entire society, right? Is there redemption in that book? Not sure. I don't think so. You know, it's the story. That's what he's telling the story.
I'm just wondering, like, it almost sounds like it could be the kind of book that they might put in a high school curriculum, and all the troubled kids are going to read it and go, "Oh yeah, it's not so bad. I can do better in my life." Is it that kind of?
No, it's probably the kind of book where it would be, if you put it in for a high school curriculum, it would look like one of those documents that the CIA hands back to you after they've
heavily redacted.
Is it the kind of book that that a Manchurian Candidate would spend a lot of time reading just before they hit?
No, I mean, it might. I don't think it really. I don't think books have that kind of influence anyway. But no, this would. Hopefully, it might make some people think about. Well, there are a lot of philosophical ideas in the book. It goes all the way through to, George Berkeley and his ideas of.
That sounds like a great way for to bring philosophy to a popular audience.
It is, but unfortunately, the book isn't built that way. I mean, for a regular audience, yes. I mean, as long as they get through the raw language, they have to work their way through the language.
We could probably get used to it.
Well, I did. And I'm not usually a raw language author, but I felt that this book needed that for some form of authenticity.
Oh, absolutely, for the character, for sure, you'd have to.
No, I don't. Do you want to read from it, or do you? And you don't have to pick that. We kind of talked about that stuff, so I don't know. Do you?
You know what? Why not? Do you want me to read just the first?
Sure, and you can go ahead and use the bad language if you want, because.
Maybe I'll just read the prologue, where he's being. The management at the Shady Dawn funeral home had every reason to be worried and to quickly call for security reinforcement. After all, the line starting in the sidewalk outside and filing slowly past the half-open coffin wasn't your usual collection of mourners, teary-eyed family members, hushed, respectful friends, or quietly joking, long-time no-see acquaintances looking to exchange an email address or two. The fact that a good number of them wore visage-hiding balaclavas or ski masks didn't help calm matters much, nor did the multiplied effect of black T-shirts with a front and back graphic pictorial of a bloodied fist ripping through Big Mac arches provide comfort or solace for the hand-wringing director. In fact, the only ones who appeared even semi-normal were a woman who looked to be in her mid-40s and a young child of 9 or 10 sitting off to the side. The woman, dressed all in black, was weeping quietly into a soggy handkerchief. The young boy, also in a dark suit, stared down at the polished floor. Leading the way for those paying their respects was a tall, skinny kid with spiky, bright yellow hair, jagged black streaks of paint across his face, an orchestrated collection of safety pins patterned like staples over one ear. His patched-up jeans were ripped at the knees and crotch. He wore a studded dog collar around his neck. Undefined tattoos depicted twisted faces resembling something out of Bruegel crept and crawled across almost every inch of exposed flesh. Beside him was a girl with shaved eyebrows and purple hair that had been cut away in patches, giving her the look of a recovering clown cancer patient. She had on a shredded T-shirt that read, "If you don't like it, shove it up your ass and rotate, corporate baby," with a graphic pictorial of another bloodied fist entering a puckered orifice for those who weren't into arcane stuff like reading.
Thank you.
Certainly sets the stage. Now, so who do you think would really benefit from reading the book?
Aside from Jean Genet, who's now no longer with us, I'm not sure if a book is made for benefit. I think a book should have an intrinsic value, and is it something that someone likes to read? They want to discover something new. They want to learn something. This might help them. If someone is looking for a Canada Reads book, no. if someone's looking for a book that they'll read on when they're on a sunny afternoon and they're up in their cottage, no. I mean, they should buy the book anyway.
Of course they should. Maybe they can read it on the bus to Montreal.
Yeah.
And they can get ready to experience the gritty streets.
Well, it also has a beautiful photo of me in my as a graduating from high school on the back. So.
Oh, I thought you meant on the front.
Yeah. That crazy high school you went to.
That's great. Well, Michael, that's awesome. And you already had the opening, but any other readings or anything?
Yeah, we're setting up some readings right now, and we're talking about having a post-punk performance at the Blue Metropolis International Literary Festival in April in Montreal, which we're going to have this book, another book that Guernica put out by Liz Worth called Amphetamine Heart.
Oh, she wrote Treat Me Like Dirt, right?
That's right. The Toronto history of the Toronto punk movement. Yeah. Yeah. And and Alan Lord, who wrote something called ATM Sex, for also Guernica, which is it's a bunch of aphorisms and which are very, very, very funny, and they also make fun of our so-called connected postmodern world.
That sounds like it's going to be a great event. That's going to be in Montreal when?
Montreal, April 22nd to 26th. We're not sure of the exact date yet because we haven't had the confirmation of the dates.
We still have to get through winter before we do that. Yeah. So maybe we can all arrange to be in Montreal for that. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I'll send you. We're working on some readings here in Toronto, and I'll be able to let you know a little more on that.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for coming in and telling us about it, and look forward to reading it, and look forward to, well, it sounds like it's going to be a great event in April in Montreal.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it's on Quattro Books. Where, if people want to get a copy, where can they do that?
Quattro, www.quattrobooks.com.
.ca. I'm
.ca.
seeing here.
Sorry, there you go.
Quattrobooks.ca.
.ca. Or on Amazon. Get it on Amazon.
Is it in bookstores in Toronto?
You'll have to talk to Quattro about that. But yeah, they have distribution in bookstores.
Well, save the cab fare. Just get it online. Quattrobooks.ca.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, thanks for doing this today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, we're going to actually play a track. I don't know if this is post-punk or not. Josh Spears is here. We've got the CD ready to go. We're going to come back and chat with Josh, his new album, The Cutting of the Elm. As Liquid Lunch hits the home stretch, we'll be right back.
Stuck sour in this makeshift skin, stuck sour in this life I'm living in. So much clearer from the inside out, begging for life.